and welcome to Bellshill Central for another Organist Entertains. It's just suddenly dawned on me that folks watching over these number of weeks will have seen some crazy lockdown here starting, and it's a realisation that this is a wee historical record of how bad and how curly this organist's hair has got, so it's something always to look back on. Now today we are back in the church for some more of your hymns and songs. Today we have hymns and other kind of religious songs happening, or maybe just a tune that somebody has requested. It's not that we're running out of hymn requests, I just perhaps thought that some people might be a little bit bored of just hearing some hymns. So we'll get hymns and some songs on the organ today, and also a little bit about the pedal board underneath the keyboards. Now, if you'd like to make a donation for these videos, you can do so now, thanks to the Church of Scotland. If you look underneath, I've always wanted to do that, the video, in the box that gives you a bit of information, there's a link, and you can donate to our congregation at no cost to you and at no cost to our church. So thank you for joining us, and I do hope you're ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy. The opening hymn for the 7th Organist Entertains has been requested by two people. This is a very, very familiar tune and set of words in the Church of Scotland, used at our communion services normally, but also perhaps on Palm Sunday or at the start of Advent. Ye gates, lift up your heads on high. The tune is, of course, St George's, Edinburgh. So, sing up. For a number of months, perhaps years, someone in the congregation has been wanting a hymn or a song sung by the choir, and we've actually never got round to it, simply because I keep forgetting. And it was reminded to me about this song the other day there when someone else requested it as part of the Organist Entertains videos. So this is a request by Sheena Bowman, and it's a long-standing request from Anne Dillon. And the request is My Forever Friend. Our request is due to David Fisher. Now, David Fisher used to sit where I sit many years ago. Bellshill boy, born and bred, and became the organist of his own local church. Now, David now plays the organ at Orchard Hill Parish Church in Giffnock, and I was so pleased to see the other day on Facebook that he actually has been able to get back in to the building and play the organ and get back on the organ bench. The hymn that David has requested is a beautiful set of words matched with a tremendous melody with outstanding harmony within it. The hymn is, "Be still my soul, the Lord is on your side." And the music is Finlandia. Finlandia is a symphonic poem. A symphonic poem is a story set to music. The different chapters of it would tell you the mood, give some sort of insight into what some people are doing, and usually comprise of a number of themes throughout it. Finlandia, the hymn tune, is based on music from that symphonic poem by Sibelius. It's beautiful. Please enjoy. Our next hymn request is Just As I Am Without One Plea. The request comes from a member of the church choir and stalwart of Bellshill Central Church, Sheena Mathew. Now, I'm not too sure what tune Sheena would like it to, so I'll play both. The first one is Saffron Walden, which is the tune that we find in a regular Church of Scotland hymn book. The second tune that we can sing Just As I Am to is Woodworth. And this has the repeated O Lamb of God, I Come as well. This particular tune, I think, was the tune that the Billy Graham movement might have used for it in the 50s and 60s, so I am sure that it will be familiar to lots of you. this hymn is As the Deer Pants for the Water. In a previous congregation where I was organist, it was I think, the minister's favourite hymn, and it really could have been sung every other Sunday. And whenever the praise list came to me, I would think, oh no, is this deer not panted enough? However, we don't sing it that often here in Bellshill Central, but we do sing it regularly enough. This is, I've got to say, the favouriteest hymn for Anne Dillon. And if she could sing it 5 times each Sunday, every week of the year, I still don't think it would be enough. So this is for you, Anne. Hope you're keeping well. The closing piece of music from episode 7 of The Organist Entertains is a piece synonymous with organ music. You hear the opening couple of notes and you know exactly what it's going to be. It's the toccata in D minor by Bach. Our last investigation into the three main organ divisions of the church organ takes us to the pedal division. Now, the pedal division contains some of the lowest sounding pipes on the organ, and it's controlled by the pedal board, which is laid out the same as the keyboards above it: C, C sharp, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F, etc. Now, there aren't as many keys, pedals to play, and that's generally because everything that you play with your feet for the musical ones among us is usually below middle C. And middle C is at the top part of the pedal board, this section here. And that would be known as middle C on the keyboards above, which is round about there. Bellshill Central has a small pedal division, but nonetheless fairly pungent when it has to be. There are 3 stops, ranks of pipes on the pedal organ. There's a bass flute, which is at 8-foot pitch, meaning that the longest of its pipes is 8 foot. So that means it would sound at the same pitch as the Clarabella flute, which you can see just on the right on the great stop jab. Below the bass flute, we have a bourdon at 16 foot. This stop shares a number of its pipes with the great bourdon. So you could say that the pedal section pipes is an extension down the way of the great bourdon 16 foot. And that does give quite a good deep foundation tone to the organ, as we'll hear shortly. The final stop on our organ, this one here we're zoomed in on, it's called an open wood at 16 foot. Now, these pipes in the organ, which we can't unfortunately see because they are at the right back of the organ chamber, they're square wooden pipes, hence the name open wood. However, before the organ was refurbished a few years ago, this particular stop was named an open diapason. And while diapasons can be wooden pipes, the naming of it as an open wood is much more appropriate. This particular stop, the open wood at 16-foot pitch, which is the fattest and longest of all the pedal pipes, gives a really good foundation and rumble. And at times it could be said that it really does make the floorboards rattle. Apologies for the knees, folks. It's been quite a sunny day, so the organist has been enjoying the air. However, this is the pedal division, and not many people get to see what goes on down here. Now, what I'm going to do just now is just show you that the organ pedal board works in a similar fashion to its keyboards, its manuals. So, apologies for the trainers, however, which I could play up here. However, let's get back to how these particular organ stops sound on the pedal boards. The first of our 3 stops on the pedal organ is a bass flute, which sounds like this. The second stop on the pedal organ is the 16-foot bourdon, which shares some of its pipes with that stop there. And it sounds a bit like this. The last stop on the pedal organ is the open wood, the big beefy sounding one. And I'll just play that same phrase of notes. So hopefully you were able to hear from up here somewhere the different tones of each sounding pipes. Oops. I'll just hold a note and I'll let you hear each of the three on the same note. That's your 8-foot bass flute, your 16-foot bourdon, and your 16-foot open wood. You might even hear a rattle there, but that's fine. In one of our previous episodes, I spoke briefly about the coupler system, whereby the swell organ can be played on the great organ altogether. Otherwise, you'd have to be a bit like an octopus with at least 4 hands. The same principle applies to the pedal division. You can borrow down some of the swell sounds to the pedal, and similarly you can borrow down some of the great sounds to the pedal. And that is particularly useful here in Bellshill when we only have 3 pedal stops, so you do need to rely on borrowing things down. Now here's the horn, played where it should be played. And if we use one of the couplers, swell to pedal, and I will go over here and just show you that we have no pedal stops on, but we can hear the horn. Sorry folks, I really should have taken the trainers off. And that principle works for the great organ. So if I draw great to pedal, and just again confirm, these are all off, and what will we choose? Since we've had the 8-foots, we'll go for the 8-foot diapason. And we'll have that same phrase again. Which, if we played it on the great organ at the pitch that I was playing it at with my feet, it just sounds the same. I've had to put the camera back up in the stand because I can't do this next bit while holding the camera. What I've chosen to play is just a small piece of a Bach prelude, and it's written in music fashion with a treble stave and a bass stave, which is lines of music, treble clef and bass clef, but it's got an additional line for bass clef, and that's for the feet to play. And on particularly Baroque music, which is what Bach is classed as being, a Baroque composer, your hands, right and left, and your feet can quite a lot of the times do something different. And on this prelude, we have a pedal section which then flows into hands together and completing the first part of it. This is a loud section, so I've drawn a lot of the stops and I have drawn the couplers to give it that extra height with the octaves above it. And hopefully you can see my feet. The pedals generally accompany most things, hymns and other chorale, slower items of music. As the Bach displayed, they can play little solo things themselves. Noel Rothstorn composed a piece of music using familiar pieces of music from many, many years ago. And sometimes the pedals allow you to get a real good range of sound quickly without having to change any stops. So take my word for it, I've prepared our swell organ, all of it out, and I've coupled that down to the pedals. I haven't coupled the swell to the grate, because that's not the sound I'm wanting. And I've got the grate organ prepared with the 4-foot flute, and I'm going to play that like a small piccolo. And you'll see what I'm going to do. So we had the pipes sounding like a boat coming up the Clyde. The next section sounds a little bit similar. It's the same tune, the sailor's hornpipe, but we've got an additional stop out, so we've got that combination that I mentioned before of 2-foot and 8-foot, and the pedals come in with what sounds like a wrong note, but it's not, trust me. That's a fun piece of music, utilising the pedals so that you don't have to change many stops, but you are playing with your two hands and your feet. French composer Charles-Marie Widor is synonymous with his toccata from his Fifth Symphony. Now, lots of people ignore the pedal part. They are always interested in this bit. That's the bit everybody knows. However, the full first page of this particular score of it has got no pedal. Moving through it, we go through the different phases of it, but the part that I'm after is at the very, very end of it. The pedals have the tune. Now I'll tone down the swell a little bit so that you can hear. And I won't do the fancy bits so that you can concentrate on what my feet are doing, hopefully. And that is the tune. Now, some people like that particular piece of music played fairly quickly, which means that the fingers go like the clappers. However, once we get to this particular part of the piece, it's the pedals that's the star of the show, and it really should be played a little bit slower so that you can hear this big, beefy, dropping series of notes. finishing this introduction, overview of the pedal section of the organ, there's one piece of music which has been included in a previous Organist Entertains, and it's the toccata from Bach, his D minor toccata. Lots of fancy finger work going on, but at the end of it, maestoso, slow, mysterious and grand, that section which is this bit. The pedals have got a little showy bit, so let's hear that. Concludes our tour, introduction to an overview of the three main constituent parts of the organ here at Bellshill Central with the pedal division.